All right, everyone. So I am currently in the midst of moving into our new basement shop area. It's an absolute mess down here, but I thought I would show a way that I use to organize my, nails and screws and anchors and things of that nature. This is a trick that my father and grandfather used when I was younger, and I figured, I like doing it. We did it at our old house. It's very convenient. It's free outside of some screws. And it makes finding things much, much easier. So the first thing you need is some jars. My wife and I both like salsa. Evidently, Tostitos was on the list a lot lately. So we have a bunch of Tostitos jars. And you need something that you're going to hang up, right? So whether that's screws or nuts or bolts or whatever, right? Anything small you can put in these. Doesn't even have to be hardware for that matter. You also need a wooden shelf. So I went out to the shed, and as I showed in a prior video, we have a whole bunch of rough sawn lumber that was left by the previous owners. They milled it here on the property, I believe. So I cut a shelf. We're going to start putting all of our tools up on the top. We did that at our previous house as well, and it really was helpful to have things up but visible so that we could find them quickly and easily when we needed them. I don't like digging around in the toolboxes and stuff. We have a box that came with the DeWalt tools, and we do keep things in there. But when we have the space, which we have again, I would much prefer to have them out and available so I can quickly grab what I need and then put it back. Everything has a home, everything has a place. So anyway, we have the shelf here. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to do this. You can take the jar, take the lid off, and screw a couple holes in it. Screw it up to the top of the to the bottom of the shelf, the top of the jar to the bottom of the shelf, and you get a ready-made hanger. You can mark it up like these are roofing nails, and it works great. You can find them easily. They're easy to use, totally free. Like I said, we're recycling old jars. You can use jelly jars. You can use ball jars, like if you're canning or whatever. You can use some of those for different sizes. You can use old pickle jars, Tostitos jars, whatever you have. Anything that has a lid, really, that's somewhat metal. And of course, you don't want to put anything in this that's going to weigh like 30 pounds, right? You don't want to rip the lid apart because these lids are not super strong, right? They're just aluminum. So they will break if you put something super heavy in there. But screws and nuts and bolts and stuff, it's a terrific use for them. Basically, what we do is we take the top off. You'll turn it upside down, drill 2 holes in it, or drill 2 screws through it. You don't even really need to pre-drill it. You just take a screw, a small wood screw, push it through with your drill, and then you'll have it ready to go. So I'm going to put one of those, or put 2 of these screws in, and I'll show you what it looks like before I screw it in. Okay, so what I did is I just took 2 screws and I drilled them into the lid. I have a sacrificial board here. This is a piece of trim that we ripped out of the house when we were moving a closet. And then you just basically drill through as far as you can until they hit the, well, not as far as you can, but until they hit the wood below, and then back them out a little bit, right? So that's what the sacrificial board is there for. You don't want to drill into your countertop or whatever that you're working on. So put a board down. Now in this case, this is some old cabinetry that we pulled out of the old pantry. We replaced it with new cabinets. So I'm reusing these for some shop space. So we only have a piece of 2x4, or sorry, plywood on top of this, and that's fine. So, if I drilled into that, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But I'm still trying to take care of the stuff we have. So, yeah, use a piece of old wood or whatever. Drill through it. You'll notice that you then, because you're using the screws that you're going to mount it with, you can see that you have 2 holes here. And then basically all we're going to do is we're going to come up, and I like to offset them in like a zigzag pattern so that you can fit a few more but still see what's back there. So this one will be set somewhat behind the first one, but still visible. And then the next one will be up here, and then there'll be a gap. So, you're going to be able to reach through and grab it either way, but you want to be able to see what's in that one behind. So if you had them real tight lined up and then another row, you wouldn't be able to see what was in the back. So just give yourself some space, This is a shelf that's 7 feet long, so if I used all that shelf, it would be a ton of stuff. We won't even probably use half of this space, but yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. Once again, give me a second here, and I will show you what it looks like. All right, there it is. All I did was screw them in. As you can see, there's 2 screws in there now. It's up on the shelf. You always want to make sure that the screw that you use isn't as deep as the shelf, right? So you can just kind of lay it up against the front there, and make sure that the screw you're using doesn't go through, right? If you picked a big long one, say something like this, you know, the screw might come through, and you don't want a screw top sticking out and hitting you in the hand when you're trying to pick something up, especially if it was like one of these, right? You know, that would be dangerous. You can't see up there always. Reach up to grab a tool and you're dragging your hand across the screw. So just be careful of that. But yeah, I just took the drilled those in, right? Pretty straightforward, nothing crazy. And then you can take this jar, which is drywall anchors for us. And if you know, we leave the label on, turn it to a way that you can possibly see it. But as you can see now, when I mount the next one like this, right, you'll still be able to see what's in that back one. And that way you can kind of just continue that pattern on down. And it gives you the ability to use both spaces, but gain a little bit of, you know, instead of having them in just one row where you wouldn't be able to see anything in the back, this gives you a little bit more per square foot because you can overlap these a little bit. And then you can stagger them so you can see them. All right, well, it's just a quick tip for your shop. If you're putting up some shelving and you're wondering where you put all your screws and your bolts and your nuts, you know, you can use those little pull-out drawers, and those are great too. But this does work. It's pretty easy. And once again, the best part of it, it's free, right? You just take as many old pickle jars and salsa jars and whatever else you have, spaghetti sauce jars, whatever, and yeah, reuse them. It's a great way to reuse some old stuff, you know, upcycling, recycling, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I got all these up. Just figured I'd show you what it looks like. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8 of them mounted. Took me just a couple minutes. As you can see, they work out very well that way. If I can stand back a little, you can see, you know, they're out of the way. The shelf is way down there. So yeah, they're easy to get to, easy to take in, easy to take out. Once again, you just turn it, unscrew it, turn it, screw it back in, turn it, unscrew it, turn it, screw it back in, right? So this one, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a label, it makes it good. You can turn them to do that. The only caution that I would give on this, of course, is make sure that you put more than one screw. We tried a few times with just one screw. They do have a tendency to pop out if you only use one. So use 2, or I should say pop through. The screw will stay in, but because this metal is so thin, they'll pop through. So use 2, and that seems to work. We've never had one that uses 2 pop out. And the other thing I would give a word of caution on is if you use mason jars are great, right? You just make sure you use the flat top with the ring, and then you screw into the ring like you would any other time you use a mason jar, and it works great. The problem is that those jelly jar lids and regular mason jar lids are pretty thin, right? They're the actual lid itself, not the ring, but the lid. Those lids will very easily pull through. So you always want to make sure you use at least 2 screws in those lids. And be careful you don't screw in too tight or they can break through. They do work, and I will be putting some mason jars here because we do use mason jars for a ton of storage. But just remember that be careful with those. They are very, very thin and they can break easily. But as you can see, quick, easy, nice way to organize some stuff that would otherwise just be cluttered up on a shelf somewhere and wouldn't be easy to get to. And it gives you a little extra space, right? Because you're using underneath of your shelving here that would otherwise just be bare space. So what I do is I just place my shelving up a teeny little bit higher, knowing that I'm going to do this, and then I still have clearance underneath to do whatever I need to do down here on the work surface without hitting them. But also, you know, we weren't going to use that space otherwise, so bringing the shelf up a few inches is not a big deal. So anyway, I just figured I would show you once again what it looked like and how it's finished up. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the content, you know, we'd appreciate it. Leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like. We put out videos regularly about our animals, the stuff that we're building here on our property, as well as gardening in the summertime and some in the winter and the spring. So yeah, if you like the video, give it that thumbs up, hit the bell to get notified after you subscribe, and thanks again for watching. Appreciate it. Have a good one.